Hey, Trojan Nation. I'm joined by head volleyball coach Amy Vienoff. The Trojans recently wrapped up their volleyball season. Coach, would you like to break down a couple of the last few games that we had? It's been a little bit since we've talked to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We finished up a regular season with some home games against Viterbo and then Waldorf. That was our last weekend of conference play. And going into the weekend, it was we nobody knew if who was the 1 seed, who was the 2 seed, who was the 3, 4, 5, 6 seed because everything we beat up on each other and we had some wins and we had some losses. Everybody did. And so it really came down to that last weekend of conference matches to figure that out. There could have been a bunch of ties and there was a lot at stake. We competed really, really well against Viterbo, who is a very good team, and they are playing in the national tournament. They will be. They ended up winning the conference tournament. Very, very good team, well balanced. We lost to them in 5 sets. It was a really fun match. A lot of good volleyball, a lot of back and forth, long rallies. It was a lot of fun. And then, so that was the Friday night. And then on Saturday, we ended up beating Waldorf in 4 sets to kind of finish up the regular season. And Waldorf was already out. They were I think they ended the 7th seed, and they knew that it wouldn't have mattered. They were too many games behind at that point. So they were just here playing. They had nothing at all to lose. Might as well just play, try to play your absolute best in your last game and nothing, it doesn't matter. So like go all out. And it was a competitive match. The first set, yeah, we lost. I think it went extra, like 29-27. It was, back and forth, back and forth. And then, so we lost that first set, but then rebounded and came back and was able to finish and get it done in 4 against Waldorf. So those were our last 2 regular season matches. That weekend, it was also alumni weekend, and we had roughly maybe 15 players that came back or were here for that and played in the alumni scrimmage match that we had um, before our match on Saturday. So that was a lot of fun. And then got to, visit and hang out with our alum that were back on Saturday night after our match. And it was just really fun to have them come back to campus and see all of them and get caught up. So that was kind of our last weekend, like I said, of regular season. And then we ended up the 3rd seed in our conference tournament. And so we had to play Presentation, who was the 6th seed. And, Presentation was a team I think they split with Valley City, who was the 5th place team. They split with Mayville, who was the 4th place team. And then it was just, like I said, Maddie, it was really weird kind of, and it all came down to that last weekend to figure out who was going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 even in our conference for the seedings. And so we played Presentation, the 6th seed, and we came up short. We lost to them in 3. They played really, really well. Presentation did. I definitely do not want to take anything at all away from them because they played great. They were a completely different team than they were when we played them the 2 times during the season, and we won both times we played them during the season. We beat them in 4 at our place, and then we beat them in 3 when we went to Presentation, and they were a different team. They came out and they were just, they were doing some really good things, and they played really well. And not that we played bad, but we were a little flat, and we just couldn't get it going enough to to pull out a win. They were all close sets really, and it was back and forth, and there was some good rallies, and just when we'd get some momentum, something would happen and the ball would be back in their court, and they'd get a few more points and get rolling. And so it was like we just really couldn't get, I don't know, we couldn't get the momentum long enough, or like keep the momentum long enough to really make some runs that we needed to. Like I said, they played really well. And so that was, really disappointing with how we finished our season. But, having the week before playing Viterbo really competitive, who is a very good team and a top 10 team, that was a highlight, obviously. And when we went to Viterbo and played them, we went 5 with them at their place as well, and so that was another highlight. So there was a lot of really good things that happened throughout the season. It just didn't end really how we wanted it to. So
For sure, coach. Well, that's certainly, it seems like you guys had a really exciting season. There's a few highlights that your team was able to pull out from that. So, what does the postseason kind of look like for your staff and for your team now that you guys are done?
Sure. We things are, it's really weird being done this early because we haven't been the last couple years. We've made it into postseason, and so it's odd being done as early as we are. But this weekend is the South Dakota High School State Tournament, so it's recruiting and being able to go and watch the high school teams compete and see the players that are in high school. That's fun. So yeah, it's really just kind of taking a break. And that's what a lot of the coaches, kind of said, like, time for a break, take your break, you deserve it. Like, it gets to be, it's tough. It's strenuous. It can be, there's lots of highs and lows, obviously, with coaching and what we do. And so it's not nice to be done because I wish we could still be playing, but it's, now that we are done, it's time to take a break, and that's what we're gonna do. We do, step away a little bit from, volleyball, but recruiting is always, something that is part of what we're doing, daily, and so just picking up a little bit more with recruiting and getting that going, and then once we come back, after Christmas break and start second semester, that's when we kinda get going with our training again and get on the volleyball court and whatnot. So, right now, it's kinda, taking a breather, basically.
Well, that's exciting, coach. And thank you so much again for coming in, giving us the breakdown. I know I've enjoyed watching your team throughout this entire season. I'm so excited for you guys for next year. And thanks so much again. And we'll talk to you again, hopefully sometime around winter break.
Sounds good. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you for tuning into another Tune In Trojans broadcast. If you're interested in hearing about our upcoming events, matches, and games, you can find all of that information at our website at www.dsuathletics.com. And until next time, go Trojans.